Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Mahjong variations. First, just variations within the Hong Kong style when playing at other people's home games. Then I'll talk about Mahjong styles from other countries. I'm only going to give you the key differences of how those are different from Hong Kong style since that's the main focus of this channel. So I won't go into details of the rules and gameplay for those other types, but just enough to be able to quickly identify the kind of variant being played. All right, so within the Hong Kong style, there's some home game variations that you may come across. The first thing is the point system may be slightly different from what you're used to. They might say this is a 3-4 system or a 4-4 system. The one that's most common and the one that I taught you guys in a previous episode is the 3-3 system. I'll show you on the next screen what I mean. This first one listed here is the 3-4 system, or Sam Sei Zai, which means you get 3 points for a semi-pure or semi-flush. I'll use those interchangeably, by the way. I forgot to mention that in a previous episode. And then 4 points for the all triplets hand. And then below that, you'll see the 4-4 system, or Sei Sei Zai, which is 4 points for semi-pure and 4 points for all triplets. The reason why some people might do the 3-4 system is because they'll feel that maybe the all three of a kind triplets is harder than the semi-pure. And then on the next screen, we have the one which I said I taught you guys, the 3-3 system. So can you guess what that one is? Right. That's basically 3 points for the semi-pure and 3 points for the all triplets hand. Also, along the same lines with the scoring variations, some people will play where you have the pure or full flush hand as 7 points. I believe they do this just to make the scoring higher and maybe generate more action because it's more exciting. And then there's another scoring difference. I think some people do not have a point for all concealed. That one I'm not sure, but I believe I had heard that in the past before. Here's another fun one. Kongs do not hurt you for concealed. Now obviously, if you draw 4 of the exact same tiles, you can make a concealed Kong and your hand can still be concealed. However, there's some variations that people will play where they can Kong from another player and it will still be a concealed hand. Or, adds a twist to it, you can make a Pong from one player, and then when you draw the 4th tile, you can do the subsequent Kong, and your hand can become reconcealed. So that is an interesting twist that I have seen some people play. It actually happens a lot in my own home games. Another variation that some people will play is they just play without the flowers. So they remove them from the set and only build walls of 2x17. Obviously, since there's no flowers, you won't get the bonus point for having no flowers. And while I'm on this topic of flowers, another common mistake that I forgot to mention in my previous episode is some people believe that the 1 of bamboo is a flower because a lot of beginners see that it doesn't look like any of the other suits. So just pay attention to that, especially if there's new players. They might do that, think it's a flower, so you might want to double check whenever they say they have flowers. Here's a fun fact. The bird on the 1 of bamboo is actually a sparrow. In Cantonese, mahjong is called mahjok, which directly translates to sparrow. The name and sparrow imagery are linked because of the sound the tiles being shuffled is said to resemble the chattering of sparrows. Interesting, huh? Another variation that you may run into is not all people play with the 7 pairs as an acceptable hand. For instance, my family doesn't play it. Interesting side note though, I actually once had that hand, but it was actually a different type of hand. It had 2 double sequences, so it looked like it was 7 pairs, but it was actually an all chow hand. So you can have it, but it didn't count as an all 7 pair hand. It was actually the all straights hand. Then there's also a special hand called Kong upon a plum flower. That's a Gong Xiang Mui, and that is basically when you Kong a tile and get a 5 of circles as the winning tile as your eye. At least in my family, it had to be specifically an eye, and it would be a limit hand. I have heard other requirements for it to have to be a middle weight, meaning you have the 4 and 6 and wait for the 5. In that case, the only way it would also work in the one my family has for that rule, it would be if it was a middleweight where you already had a 5, known as in Cantonese it translates to big stomach 5 of circles, where you're waiting for the where you have 4, 5, 5, 6, and you have the middle weight, but it's also an I. All right, so that's all I have for variations within the Hong Kong style. There's probably more, but those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. So now let's move on to Mahjong from other countries. The first different style that I'm going to tell you about is American Mahjong. Sometimes you'll see it written as NMJL, which means National Mahjong League. The biggest difference in this one is that they'll use scoring cards for their hands, and that's how you'll immediately be able to tell if you're watching some people playing American style Mahjong. There's a few other things that you can see on the screen here that's different. They have jokers and still has flowers. The jokers you can't use for singles or pairs, but there's a whole other set of rules on how they work. Scoring is based entirely on hand card values, so it doesn't matter how your pongs and chows work. It's just the kind of hand you get, and you get score based on it. Next we have Taiwanese style. The biggest difference in that one is you have 16 tiles instead of 13. So that means instead of 4 sets of 3 and a pair, you actually have 5 sets of 3 and a pair. Another way you can tell how some people are playing Taiwanese style is when they take a meld for a run of 3, you'll see they always put the one they take in the center. So it won't always be in order. For instance, if they take a 1 or a 1, 2, 3 sequence, you'll see them place the 1 in the center, and you'll see it as 2, 1, 3 in front of them, exposed. When I first came across this one, Filipino style, I had no idea what they were doing because I was watching them put the honor tiles down as flowers as well. And then I had to ask them what style they were playing. So that was the biggest difference in now how I can identify if that's the style they're playing. Honor tiles you'll see placed as flowers. Then they have a few other differences, such as where after one person wins, you'll just continue to play until no more people can win. Next we have Japanese style Mahjong, sometimes known as Reach. This one is similar to Hong Kong style. Sometimes you'll see them have 3 red 5s in the deck, 1 for each of the numbered suits. The biggest difference is you can declare Riichi and lock your hand, meaning you can't change it, but you get extra points when you win. The easiest way to tell if they're playing Japanese style is you'll see a face up tile near the end of the wall used as a bonus indicator, and also the tiles are discarded in front of each player in order. The next one I'm going to talk about is MCR, which stands for Mahjong Competition Rules, also called Chinese Official Mahjong. The basic difference, you won't be able to tell when it's actually in play because it looks very similar to Hong Kong style. You'll notice the difference when they actually start scoring their hands, because it kind of gets ridiculous. You'll notice here it says there is over 80 scoring patterns in their list. I can show you a quick example of a score sheet here. As you can see, there's lots of different things you can do to up your score in this style of Mahjong. It's kind of cut off on the end on my screen here because if I scaled it so that you can see everything, it's too hard to read the font. So I think this is enough that you should basically be able to get the gist of it though. Alright, well, those are all the styles I'm going to mention, but know that this is not at all a complete comprehensive list. There's many other styles. Heck, there's even some variants with animal tiles. I believe that it is a Singaporean or Vietnamese style that uses them. Also, this past weekend, I just learned that there's even a Mumbai style and something more local and regional called California style Mahjong. Those I know nothing about and have to research. Also, I wanted to mention, I know some people will say Chinese Mahjong and refer to the Hong Kong Cantonese style, but as you can see, there's different types of Chinese styles, such as Hong Kong, Taiwanese, MCR. So you may want to be more specific when talking about which Chinese style of Mahjong you mean. Okay, well, I hope you guys were able to learn a little about different types of mahjong styles you may come across, and now should be able to identify them, and also be able to adjust to home game variations within the Hong Kong style itself. Anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your mahjong crew. See you in the next episode. Bye.